This Zooming business is new to me too, but we've been doing quite a number of the different schooners on Zoom, and it's kind of a lot of fun because I learn a lot about the schooners that I never really knew. But welcome on Sharps Point South. Welcome to the world famous Sail Power Museum. Wonderful museum on the south end of Rockland. We have a new audience here tonight, and we've got to tell you what great memorabilia we have at this museum, and you really got to come and see it. 5-star museum on TripAdvisor. My wife and I started this museum 10 years or 11 years ago now. Years are going by so fast. And I thought this will be great fun. I'll be able to sit back, put my feet up, and lie and brag to everybody. And they'd believe me because I'm the oldest thing around. But it seems like I'm working my head off. More and more things are happening all the time. I have to tell you a little bit about the great program we have tonight. We have a wonderful program, the schooner J&E Riggin, built in 1927 down in New Jersey, an oyster dredger, and we'll tell you all about that and where the name came from. Probably most of you already know a lot of the things I'll be telling you about, but we're going to tell you anyway. But first of all, we have the commercial. We have to have the commercial. Right now, we're building a new building, and you see the old backhoe here. Well, the backhoe isn't there anymore. You can see the foundation there. Well, that's not there now. There's a building on top of it. And our new building is going to be 4,000 square feet as depicted in the rendering there on the bottom. It's a boat storage building. We have 22 antique boats that we'll be putting the prize ones in this building for display. Over on the right, the big door there is for our steamboat. We have a 40-foot stern paddle wheel steamboat and a wood-burning boiler in it, and we're going to be running it on air in the museum. And it's got a 10-key calliope on the top deck. In the middle here, next to the main entryway, we're going to have Friendship sloop, Musconga sloops in there. We have our Herreshoff 12.5 screw in the other bay, and several antique beetle cats, and a whole parcel of Optimus prams. What's an Optimus pram, you say? My God, that's a strange name for a boat. Well, an Optimus pram is a wonderful little boat. It's built like a cigar box, and it's part of our skiff program. We do what we call our skiff program, Sail Kids for Free. We take kids from 6 to 14 years old and we give them a week of free sail training. Look at the picture on the left there. These little tiny kids are 6, 7, 8 years old. I mean, little tiny arms and legs on skinny little things. And they're taking their rudders and their centerboards out and they're putting them on the boats. They don't know a rudder from a centerboard, but we're teaching them. And the first day we put them out there on a tether. They learn to rig their boats up, put them overboard. They learn what to do and how the rudder and the sail reacts. And by Wednesday, they're actually learning to sail. By Thursday, they're going out around the buoys out in the harbor. Sometimes we turn the boats over as an exercise so they know what to do. If they turn a boat over, they have to right it themselves. And they have a grand time doing that. They love getting wet. And the idea they're over on the right there, your buddy's in the next boat. So the first thing you do is try and outsail him, try and go faster than him. If you can't do that, well, then you run into him. Well, anything that works. And down in the lower one picture there, that's graduation day on Friday. We have a little race out around the buoys out there, and then they get a certificate and a couple little memorandums that they can take home with them. All of this is sponsored by the world famous Sail Power Steam Museum and their donors, their sponsors, like you people, like everybody that would love to see kids out on the water. Here's our promise to you. Up in the upper left there, that's race day. That's all the kids getting together and lining up and heading out to see who can sail the fastest. Well, we promise you that we will double your gift. If you give us $100 to put a kid through a week of sail training, we will double it by putting another kid in there with him in another boat. We've got 22 of these little Optimus prams, and we put another kid out there. If you give us $200, we'll put 4 kids out there and multiply it out. 500 by 10 kids. Be an admiral. Send $1,000 donation. You can afford $1,000 donation. Anybody can these days. And we'll put 20 kids out through the whole week of sail training. And here they are down there with their masks on and their life jackets on. And that's our skiff program. So join the skiff program, be a donor to the Sail Power Steam Museum, mark your donation to the skiff program and the sailing program, and we'll teach kids to get out on the water. They get so excited about that, they forget their telephones. It's just amazing. Well, let's go on. And we'll talk about the J&E Riggin. And here she is in her working days with her working outfit on. And of course, she's a commercial schooner. You can see by the patches in her sails and all the rest. She's an oyster dredger, as they call them, down in the southern part of New Jersey. You can see a pile of oysters right there on deck, both foredeck and main deck, a pile of oysters. And you can see that she's reefed down. Her mainsail's reefed down probably 2 times. Her foresail's reefed down once, and her jumbo's reefed down as well, probably twice. But that's the way they have to do. They have to keep the vessel going, but keep it going slowly because they're dredged. There's rake down there. These oysters, they live in the mud. They're wonderful, fertile mud banks all throughout the Delaware Bay. And they live down there, inch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches underneath the mud. They have a little hole up through the mud where they breathe the water in and out, and they get their nutrients so that they grow down there. They are absolutely wonderful oysters. New Jersey is known for the oysters in that bay. And the Riggin was one of the most legendary of the vessels there. She was a dredger, and you can see between the 2 masts there up on the rail, they have a table where they bring the oysters up and the rake up, and they spill the oysters out on deck. And then they come up there and drop the dredge over again. If you look very closely, you can see right down here along her hull, there's a line overboard, and that goes down to the dredge. A fascinating way of life for these sailing vessels down there. This is the Riggin. It's kind of a washed out photograph, but of course these are 1920s. If you look closely, you can see she's got all her sails set here to the most extent, but she's got 3 sets of reef points in the mainsail there. And she's got 3 more sets on the foresail. There's 2 sets, well, it's hard to see, 3 sets. And 2 more sets on the jumbo so that they can reef her down when the breeze comes up, so that they can control the speed of the vessel and she wouldn't override the rake that she's dredging with behind her that would jump up on top of the mud and bounce along if she went too fast. So it was quite a trick to keep these vessels reefed down and make sure that they got the most efficient method of dredging. It's an amazing industry down there. By the turn of the century, I hope you can read all of this. Oysters were the most #1 fishery in New Jersey, and an incredible industry it was. New Jersey had the greatest supply of oysters, and they were a staple part of the region's development. They were very much an economic powerhouse down there. You could buy them right from the vendors at 2nd and Vine, for 3rd and Vine, right in Philadelphia. You know those great big pretzels that used to sell there, heated up pretzels? Well, they used to sell these oysters the same way, right out on the cart, right out on the street. And in order to supply all of the fishery, there were more than 500 vessels. Imagine 500 schooners on that bay. God, you'd think they would fish all the oysters out in one great sweep, but they were so prolific. The oysters lasted and lasted and lasted for a long time. It was an absolutely amazing shipping area and shipbuilding area. Entire towns grew up down there. How would you like to come from Shell Pile, New Jersey, or Bivalve? What great names. And Port Norris was really quite a place, and you were quite an elegant person if you came from Port Norris. At the peak of the oyster industry, Port Norris had more millionaires than any town in New Jersey. You talk about an economic powerhouse. Southern New Jersey was an amazing place at that time. And of course, these vessels, the J&E Riggin built right there in Maurice River down in Dorchester, 1927. She was late. She came in 1927, so she was a later example of that style of wooden vessel. Two-masted, bald-headed centerboard boats. Of course, they had to be centerboard boats, so they didn't want to draw too much water. They're skimming over the mud flats down there, and they didn't want to be too deep. So they used them centerboarders. And most of the time, well, not most of the time, but certainly a good percentage of the time, they were running off the wind. So they didn't want a deep keel. They wanted a centerboard that they could draw up and get out of the way. And the few survivors, very few survivors from that industry, but the Meerwald is one of them, and she's New Jersey's tall ship. And the other is in Rockland right now, the Boyd M. Shepherd, which was the Isaac Evans, which is now the Isaac Evans. She was purchased a couple of years ago and renamed her original name, the Boyd M. Shepherd, but now she's been just resold and now is the Isaac Evans again, which was the name that she has carried most of her career. She's a passenger schooner now, but she was one of the dredgers, one of the Oyster dredgers. I told you about the rakes they use. Here's the rake, picture of the rake that they used, and it's up on the table on the side of the vessel right now, spilling its oysters out. This is the catch that they got. Doesn't look like it's very full right there, but maybe they've already made it pass. I don't know. But that's the kind of rig they use to dredge their oysters. This fellow looks like he's just getting started. They've got a winch there to draw the drag, the rake up on deck right over the rail. They have padding on the rail to keep it from getting chafed. And he's got his little yawl boat back aft there. It looks like they're just getting started for the day. The J&E Riggin is a very quick vessel. And when you have 500 schooners down there to compete with, it's really quite an honor to win the only official oyster dredging race that they have had down there in the Delaware. But you imagine the sailing vessels all over that bay. It was amazing. Captain Ed Riggin, of course, one of the boys in the Riggin family. He was a captain on the J&E, and he tells of his exploits with the old boat. And when they'd get her running wing and wing, my gosh, he said it was almost as if she was a live creature, rising up out of the sea, running before the wind, and I'd going wing and wing. This is with sails set on each side, running wing and wing. Most of you know that. The old fellows used to call that reading both pages. That was the great way to dredge oysters, with the wind behind them and their rate through the mud. Here's Ed, Captain Ed, right here with his trophies in the case, and another trophy for the granddaughter there. Here's a vessel that looks very much like the Meerwald, a little smaller than the J&E. And look at her reef points she has in her sails. She has 4 sets in the mainsail, 3 sets in the foresail, and a set up in the jumbo. And that was the way of, as I say, they controlled the speed of the vessel. She's doing her best to pass down past the J&E with a great pile of oysters right on her foredeck there, piled up so high they have to just about clear the foreboom over the top of the pile of oysters. I hope you can read this. It's an interesting dialogue from Captain Frank Hinson. And just saying how he believed that the vessel, the way it was rigged up, was just right. She was hung just right, he says. We're coming down the bay one day, and there's the Richard Lohr old-time boat pushing with her yawl boat down. Pushing, wasn't a bit of wind, not a bit to plant. He looked up, and there came the Riggin down the bay. My God, she was coming so fast. They thought she was pushing right hard with her yawl boat. She went by us and didn't even have her yawl boat down. It was still hanging in the davits. It had a main boom and a line on her foreboom to keep the sails out, wing and wing. And she was going right down the bay. And she hung just right. As he says, it takes a breeze of wind. You just have to reef her down to nothing to keep the dredges on the bottom. She was so quick. That was the reputation that vessel had.
And she still holds that reputation.
Still holds that reputation? We're going to find out, aren't we?
Oh, yes, we will.
Great. Well, in 1960, things changed. They had an infestation on the bay that killed many of the beds of the oysters. And times are changing. Motors came into vessels, and the J&E was converted into a dragger. You can see the gallows frames on her rail, and they put a pilot house on her. They have a big engine in her now, so they can control the speed of the vessel. And she did a lot of fish dragging as well as oyster. But they had to trade to a different kind of industry because of the conditions. And the vessel had to make money. That was the way it had to be. So there's the old skipper. They're still dragging up some clams and oysters and things like that. And then they're going fishing for the regular fish as well. Here she is up on the railway. Now, David, are you there? Captain Dave, will you unmute? David and Sue, Alan?
Yep, we're here.
I know you're there somewhere.
Can you hear me?
I hear
Loud
you.
and clear, Dave.
I hear you finest kind. Were you there when this vessel was pulled up on the railway?
Not in that picture, I wasn't.
Not in that picture. Well, this was a transition in 1972 when you came on the scene, is that right?
It was more like 1974 when we purchased the vessel.
Oh, is that right? 1974.
I can relate to this though. In 1972, I found the J&E Riggin sitting off of the Oyster Harbors on Cape Cod. And I was 15 years old and I thought it was a pirate ship. And I wanted to go on her, but she was out in the water and we didn't decide to swim out to her, but we sailed around her. And she had a companion boat with her, and I'm not sure which one it was, the Leda maybe, or something else that came up with her to Cape Cod. And they were going to use her as a boat between the islands. And they never got enough funding. So my first experience with her was seeing a beautiful hull with the mast sawed off, and the wheelhouse was still there, but she looked in sorry shape.
Oh my God. I don't see your face. Who's talking?
This is Jonathan Craig.
Jonathan Craig. Yes, I've heard that. Well, we had 1972. Shows you can't believe what you read.
She was still down there in Cape Cod in 1974 when we saw her.
And were the masts in her when you saw her, Dave, or were the masts sawn off?
No, the picture you've got there showing is exactly as we saw her.
Was it?
When we first went down and looked at her, we actually, when we were going to purchase her, we drove down. I think Doug and Linda Lee were with us, and we had talked to the fellow that owned her, a fellow named David Lewis, and he had told us, come on down and look at her. He says, he said, but don't expect any help from me. He said, you'll have to find a way out to her yourself. So there was a fellow with a little yacht, sort of tugboat, little small thing, and he took us out and he said, I'll be back in an hour or so. And so we hung out and had our lunch, and we decided right then that we wanted that vessel.
Yep, good. Well, the other picture
you've got there is
who's hanging over
when, before we brought her up here, I was hanging over the transom painting Rockland on the stern.
Swinging on a rope up there. Who's tending rope? Is that Sue?
I think that's Doug Greason holding me up.
Oh, that's Doug Greason. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's Sue. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd say she had you under her control then.
Yeah, that scruffy looking guy at the wheel, that's me.
Yeah, yeah. Looks like your pants are halfway down.
I think that's my shirt that's untucked.
Oh, I would guess so.
That was probably hiding my pants that were hanging down.
What was the name of the skipper, the owner of the Toro?
That was Steve Wedlock.
That's Steve Wedlock. Yes, I know him. I forgot that. Yep. So that was 74.
Mm-hmm.
To Rockland, Maine. How was the trip up?
Pretty nasty. It was
Pretty
it
cold.
was right after Thanksgiving, so it was November, and it got pretty rough. Once we got through the Cape Cod Canal, it really came up hard. We were taking all kinds of water over the bow and so forth, and Steve Wedlock decided that we ought to go into Portsmouth, so we hung in there for one evening before we finished the trip up. But it was rough. It was cold, and as you can see from the picture of us, I think Doug Greason took that picture. And if you look there, there's Pigeen, Eddie Glazer's there, Sue's brother is on board, and you can see Sue, she's on the right. That was the crew we had.
Uh-huh. And a little snow on deck?
Not until we got to Rockland.
Oh, that right-hand picture there, that was in Rockland?
Dave, why did you find the boat with the mast laid down like that, or did you guys do that before you made the trip north?
Oh, we took the mast, we had the mast taken out and laid down on the deck before we towed her up. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. We took the mainmast that was in her and made it into the foremast, and because she was a little under rigged, and then we had to make a new mainmast from a tree we bought up in Ashland, Maine.
So
Hi, Judy.
this is Rockland, huh?
Yeah, we're hauling her out here, and
Are you on a cradle here, or are you on the rails?
we're on a cradle. We built a cradle along with Doug and John and so forth at the shipyard, and but there was, it wasn't set up for blocking, so we had to block it after we got her partly out of the water. And this is like the 1st of December, and boy, that water was some cold, and we were up to our up halfway up our thighs there, and in salt water, trying to get the blocking under and so forth as we got her out. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night before we finally got her all the way out. We had bulldozers that did it.
I was going to say, did you have bulldozers? Yeah. Uh-huh. Amazing what you do. You do what you have to do, huh?
Yeah.
So then you got her out and you moved her off to the side?
Yeah, we because the cove was not level with the ground where we kept her, we had to jack her up, and then we had to move her sideways. And I think we bought we must have had about 20 80-ton little hydraulic jacks that we used, and we'd make notches and planking and so forth, and we jacked her sideways. It took 2-3 days to do it, to get her over there. And then we built a house around her.
Jeez, yeah, quite a job. And down below, that's the original forecastle, huh?
Yep, that's the original forecastle, and I suspect that when she was oystering, the galley was aft. But if you look in that picture to the right there, there's a stove. So while she was in Greenport in the regular fishing fleet, I think they had the galley and the crew quarters up forward. But I'm sure most of the crew slept up there when she was oystering, and the captain and the engineer and maybe the cook lived back in the main cabin.
Well, you must have enjoyed having that stove up in the forecastle there.
Yeah, we did. It was pretty cold. We had all kinds of food and all kinds of plans on cooking all this stuff, but it was pretty nasty trip. So it was peanut butter and stuff,
Yeah.
I think, it's turned out.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and here you started tearing her down.
Yeah, we did. And that picture you're looking at is some of the top framing that we uncovered when we took some of the planking off. I'm pretty sure we replaced the frames you're looking at there. She wasn't in terrible shape. She was not like the Lewis R. French or anything. I mean, we had quite a lot of schooner to work with, but it still required, you know, a lot of replacing stuff and so forth.
A lot of brute force. Yeah. Yeah, frames are better.
When you guys were going through, Dave, what was the most alarming find?
Well, I think probably we got through with most of the rebuild, and there was some new planking on the port side, and we had thought all through there that was all good because there were new nails and so forth there. But we said, well, let's take a plank off, and when we did, we found out that some of the nails are actually just nailed into air. So we had to. So all of a sudden, we had to suck it up and do a little more work. I think that was maybe the previous owner, when he was having a hard time and running out of money. I think he decided to plank her up and sell her.
Heard nails go easier through air than wood.
Oh yeah, they got to be a lot easier to drive, that's for sure. And we drove a lot of nails into that white oak, so I can tell you that.
Was the Coast Guard looking at you at the time?
What's that?
Was the Coast Guard looking at you at the time?
Oh, they were looking at us all through the whole thing. They would come down every month or so and you know, look at all that we were doing and you know,
yeah,
give us, you know, sometimes they gave us a hard time, but I really think that you know, what the Coast Guard has done has been a great boon to this fleet, because they've definitely kept us honest.
Up around the bows.
Yep, as all of that wood was pretty good up there. I did have to replace a bit of the stem, which was separate from the apron and so forth. Back aft, it wasn't nearly as good. That other picture that you're showing there showed some of the framing and stuff that's back there, and the whole transom. We had to do quite a lot of work on the transom part of the vessel, as far as framing and you know, stuff like that. All those fashion pieces that go there all had to be replaced. And we had, you know, I got to say, we really, when we hauled that boat out, we really didn't have much of a clue of what we were doing. So we kind of learned as we went. Every time we had a new thing to do, we'd kind of scratch our heads and try to figure it out. We did have John and Doug Lee next door, so we had somebody we could call on once in a while if we needed a little advice.
Yeah. And of course, you had to restore the centerboard. I guess there was nothing left of the centerboard trunk of when you got the boat.
No, the board had been the centerboard had been taken out of her. And originally when we brought her out, we were thinking that we wouldn't put the board back into her, actually. But Budsy Hawkins would come down. He was quite excited about the Riggin because it looked like it would be some competition for the Merry Day, other than your vessel, the Adventure, which was definitely competition. And so he came down and he said, well, you know, if you don't put the board in, you ought to make your keel kind of bowed so that it hangs down a little bit to give you something to turn on. And I thought that would be a nightmare for hauling out. So we said, you know what, well, maybe we'll try building a centerboard. And we did. All the dovetails and the frames were still there. So we had some 12 by 12 oak that were left over from building the cradle, and we used those for the well logs. And that's probably the thing that I guess I'm most proud of, that we were able to put that trunk in, because I don't think there was anybody around that had done it at that, up here at that time.
Yeah.
But it came out pretty good, and it did help our sailing quite a lot. I mean, I think John and Annie and Justin will.
Yeah, I think it's pretty necessary. Who's that in the picture? Is that Sue?
That's Sue.
Yeah.
Yep. She's putting some bolts in on the posts at the end of that board.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Great.
And the other picture shows the board as it was almost all the way up.
Didn't your father come down and help you with some of that?
He didn't help us with the board. When we came back, when we went to Ashland, we bought a tree for a mast, and I think you may have some pictures of it there.
Yeah.
And he helped us quite a lot with the mast. Oh yeah, there I am.
Yeah. You don't look real pleased. You don't look like a happy schooner owner.
Well, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but we've been tearing.
I don't think I've ever
planking
seen that
so
hatch.
forth, and I don't know. Maybe it was time for lunch, and I was getting on board.
Yeah, that's a great picture. Well, you get some new water now, and some new planking mixed in there.
Yeah.
You put
These pictures are probably taken in early '77, when the year we sailed, when we had a lot of the topside planking done, and I think we pretty much had all of the planks on the bottom that we were placed in by then, and those are new top timbers that you're looking at for the most part. We were able to save a few of the top timbers, but most of them we had to replace. Those top timbers were a separate piece from the framing, by the way. I guess that's the way they built them then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can see that we still had a lot of work to do on deck.
Yeah.
And we hadn't put the covering board in, which was another interesting process. There you can see that one's a rail cap. That was another Budsy Hawkins thing. He said, when you put the rail cap on, he says, you want to put in good lock scarfs on that, on those, on your pieces of your rail. It'll keep her from hogging. So we did. And I noticed we'd be sailing, and you could see that that little seam where the lock was, that would just about disappear. So they did take a strain.
Mm-hmm.
Dave,
It
I don't
looks
know.
like we. Oh,
Are you going to mention the chat?
yeah.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
You can go ahead.
I was just going to say, somebody in the chat's asking where you got the money to do all that work.
Oh, where did we get it?
Yeah.
Well, when we got married, we were in Massachusetts, and I was a school teacher teaching junior high, and my wife was a computer programmer at one of the big banks down there, and I think she programmed those big old IBM 360s back in the 1960s. And it was she was on the cutting edge. She made fairly good money. So I think we had about 30 grand kind of saved up. It cost us 10 grand to buy the schooner. And the rest of it, we made it last. We did have to work a little bit. We did some part-time stuff.
You say she was working at the bank.
Yeah, a big bank in Boston.
And doing programming at the bank. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's a pretty good source of funding, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. She was definitely holding up her end more than I was while I was teaching, I can tell you. I think the first year I taught, I made about $6,500 a year.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that looks like a lot of deck to be done there.
The other thing is, as Sue just reminded me of, is of course that we didn't do that just the two of us. We had some. Well, there's my dad working on the mast. We had people that wanted to learn boat building. That they'd come, they'd live with us, we'd feed them, and so forth. And they worked with us, and they were very helpful in getting it done. Some of them have gone on to own boat yards actually of their own. So we felt quite lucky to get that kind of help. We in the early 70s, the economy wasn't very good, so a lot of people were running around looking for something to do, and so we managed to lock in some of that free labor, I guess you might say.
Great. You got to do what you got to do.
Yep. That big log my father's working on over there, that was a bit intimidating when we got it up here, and we were going to turn it into a mast. But I think there's another picture you may have of it all squared up. Oh yeah, right on the other side of the page there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we had to 8-side it, and then 16-side it, and then take it to round.
Mhm. Now this picture must have been when you first moved her over, was it? Before
Which
you-
one? The one? Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. That looks like when we were getting ready to launch, actually.
Does it? Yeah, I wondered about that. The paint looks as
I think so. The paint looks, the red stripe, there wasn't any red stripe on it when we bought her. So that's towards the end. We haven't got the bottom paint on her yet, or all of it on her yet. But,
well, it looks a little rough to be, but it looks beautiful. God, you've got the beautiful shear there and everything.
oh yeah, she's a beautiful boat. I can tell you, we were just happy that we were allowed to, actually have her for 20 years.
Yeah, it's magnificent. What are the towers behind you?
What's the what?
The
Those towers?
Yeah, well, fish plant.
That's the fish meal plant, I believe, over there.
Yeah.
You got an idea, Sue?
CPRO.
I think there was a fish meal plant down there at that time. Oh yeah, here we are.
I see.
We've moved her over. We had we had some building movers come, and they moved her back over the railway. They had her leveled up there, and then they slowly jacked her down, and they got to within about 18 inches, and something happened, and she just dropped the last 18 inches just all at once. Scared the living bejesus right out of me, I'll tell you.
Oh my God. I guess.
But by that time she was in pretty good shape, so she could take a knock, I guess.
Hmm. So there she looks nicely painted up. And is this your crew?
Yep, that's the crew we had. Some of those, a couple of those guys went sailing with us. 3 of them actually. The fellow on the right, looking at him, is Jeff Rutherford. He's on the left facing us. He had his own boatyard out in San Francisco after this all went. He was he was a pretty capable guy. And the other ones were crew we had. David Sloatman, Tim Holloway, he was there. I'm not sure who the fellow beside Jeff is, you know? No, can't remember.
And you're finishing the deck when she's overboard, huh?
Yeah,
Forward
then
house.
we put her overboard, and we still had to do a lot of work, cabin tops. We had to put in all of the cabins below deck. We had to do all the joiner work down there and so forth. There's a picture looking down the hatchway at one of our cabins down there and so forth. We were up against it at that point. This is probably taken in maybe, I don't know, May of '77, and we were supposed to go sailing in July, which we did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
A lot of very late nights, I can tell you.
yeah. Who's that up on the masthead? Is that you?
Oh, I can't see the whole of that picture.
Yeah, pictures up there in the way.
Could have been Grant Gamble, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we're hooking in I see. I think we're hooking in the spring stay there.
Yeah. So there's your brochure.
That's the last brochure we had. That picture was taken during the race in 1983.
Oh,
And we won that one. It was the kind of wind that the J&E Riggin likes. It was probably a 18 to 20 knot day, and a lot of it was into the wind, and she liked that.
mhm.
The other picture, not sure when that was taken. She's a pretty vessel. The fellow that took that brochure shot, by the way, was Ben Mendlowitz, who's a good photographer, and I'm sure that many of your folks know him and so forth. While we were sailing in that race, we kept noticing this little boat that would get about 50 yards in front of us and shut off his outboard, where we were heading right directly at him. And it was kind of, it was a little scary for us. We didn't want to run the guy down, but when he was about 20 yards ahead of us, he'd move and so forth. And that's when that picture was taken.
Uh-huh. This, where is this? Over Deer Isle Thoroughfare somewhere? Or is this?
I think that's taken from Russ. We're anchored off Russ Island, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe Wreck. I'm not sure. One of those. But we had a picnic. Maybe somebody else can recognize it better than I can.
It's all that dull, disgusting, beautiful scenery.
Yep. Oh God, there's it's one of the great cruising areas in the entire world up here.
Yeah. No, I got
That
this
vessel is not us.
I got this picture off the internet, and it was named you, but I don't believe it.
No, it's not. That's the Bowditch.
Oh, is that right?
That is an imposter.
Yes.
Imposter. Yeah.
It's now the Ladona.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well.
She was a pretty good sailor. She was a nice boat.
Yep.
Jim and Dave, I missed a question that was up in the chat, and I have a feeling it goes back to that mast that your dad was working on, Dave, asking if that's the one that's still there today.
No. In actuality, we had that mast I think we had that mast in it for 2 years. And one day we were sailing down the bay towards Owl's Head, and it was blowing hard, and I looked up, and the masthead was kind of doing a little of this and so forth. And we decided that maybe we'd like to get some Douglas fir mast. So we ordered we ordered 2 Douglas fir masts for her and put them in the next year. So we had those there. So they're not, that mast that my father was working on isn't still in her. I think somebody came up, one of our old crew members that was working on some sort of a river barge in New Hampshire or something, came up and bought the mast from us and took it down there, the one that we'd taken out. But yeah, spruce mast, those spruce masts just aren't quite as strong as those nice Western fir ones there.
Yeah, that's for sure. So you got it registered as a historic landmark here in 91?
Yep, along with a bunch of other boats.
Yep. Great.
Yep.
And then transition. John and Annie, speak up. Unmute yourselves. Are you there? John and Annie, did we lose them? Are they falling asleep or?
No, we're here.
No, we're here.
Yeah, there you go.
There you are.
Can you hear us now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we found, well, Annie and I had gone yachting
Well,
down
how
the
did,
river and back, decided that it's time to move home and buy ourselves a schooner. So we started looking at all the vessels in the fleet, and we decided that the Riggin was the right match for us. So we met with Dave and Sue and had breakfast, and that's all part of history now.
well, had you sailed on her before you bought her?
No, never sailed on her before.
No? Mm-hmm. You sailed on other boats?
Yeah, we both, Annie and I both met while sailing on the Stephen Tabor.
Oh, is that right?
Yep, that was the first boat in the fleet up here. And then prior to that, I had sailed on the Bill of Rights with Captain Kip Files, actually. That was my first schooner.
Oh, yeah. I see. Mm-hmm. So you had been bitten by the bug anyway, huh?
Yeah, back then I would think I was 16 when I sailed with Kip. And then,
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's all it took was 1 week for me. And I saw how beautiful that was, and we decided, wow, that's the life for me. I'm gonna do what I can to own a schooner someday. And there you go.
That's what happens. You get to be an addict, huh?
That's true. You get bitten.
Yep. And Annie, you're quite a cook. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I can make a thing or two.
A thing or two. You got your own book there?
I do,
How
yeah.
are the book sales going?
Pretty well, actually. I have another one coming out in August.
Oh, do you?
So that really hasn't slowed down, even though the schooner side of things has. So yeah, when we first bought the boat, I loved cooking, but I was actually worried that I would get bored on cooking on a wood stove. But I made that wood stove do a bunch of things that I don't think I'd ever done before. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah. Everything tastes better on a wood stove.
That is so true. Yeah.
And this is it's an example. Makes me hungry just looking at it.
Didn't you have dinner?
What? Those days of eating on deck, though, on the nice days, that's marvelous.
Yeah, it's you can't beat the view for sure.
And always a few fresh flowers there below beside it. That's great.
Yep, cutting flowers from the garden.
Yeah. Who's here?
Pardon? Oh, so all right. So this is me on the left, but then that's Chloe, our oldest daughter, on the right. And the girls were down in the galley with me a lot. They would kind of float back and forth between being on deck with John and the crew up there, and then down in the galley with us, or with me, my whatever crew I had down below in the galley. So, and they had specific jobs. One of their jobs was setting the table, or every year they had different jobs, but they They always were part of the crew.
Great,
Yeah.
great, isn't that great? And everything's so close down in the galley, you can reach everything without moving.
That's right. I just would
Almost.
spin. I'd stand in that spot and I just spin and spin and
Spin around.
spin. Back and
Round
forth.
and round, yeah. Well, it looks like everybody's well fed and pretty happy.
I think that happened most of the time. Yeah.
In that picture, they're all pretty smiley.
Yeah. Yeah. That's at the end of a trip.
Don't you miss that?
Yeah. I mean,
glorious-
we'll miss it forever. Yeah.
Glorious feeling is sailing back in, everybody happy as a clam, and you didn't kill anybody this trip. So
That's right.
get that feeling of euphoria.
And relief.
Yeah. So what date was this picture?
Let's see. So Ella would have been maybe 3 there, right?
Yeah, maybe 3 years old at
Yeah.
that point.
So 6 years in. So that's probably 2004.
2004, yeah.
Yeah,
Girls all grown up now.
they are. Yep, out of the house and living
Yeah.
their own lives.
Yeah, I think when
Time goes by.
our first season, Chloe was 13 weeks old when we left the dock for our first sail. And then of course 3 years later, Ella came along, and so yeah, Chloe's out of college now, and Ella's in her sophomore year at college, and yeah, they're all grown up now.
Think any of them will follow the sea?
I think that'll always be a part of them. I don't necessarily think they'll choose that for a career.
Yeah, but the ocean will always be a part of them for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And is this still the same configuration nowadays? So
Not quite,
Yes,
not quite.
mostly.
All the way forward, the crew quarters, that's all combined into one space now, and that we turned that into the family cabin. So that was the 4 of us. We reconfigured that, and then we ended up giving up one of our guest cabins for crew.
I see.
But other than that, everything's still the same.
So you could lay up in the bunk up forward there and listen to the anchor chain rattle.
That is true.
Oh, I was very, very attuned to every little wave.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way it is.
In fact, I could hear, there were times when we'd be anchored in Islesboro, and I could hear when one of the big ships, one of the big freighters was coming down the bay. I can hear it just resonate right through the hull, right next to my ear.
You don't get much sleep in the summer in these vessels.
Not too much.
So you had some wonderful different cruises. I believe this is rug hooking. Is this what's going on here?
That is a rug hooking trip. Yeah. Yeah, we just we started out doing some knitting cruises for one group, and then it ended up blossoming into doing a number of different crafting trips. It just turned out to be a good fit, and our space, the amount of space we have on deck and the space that we have in the galley, so when the weather was inclement, everybody could still be down in the galley doing their project. It just, when there's these self-contained pieces, it just worked. Yeah. So we kept doing it.
It's great they take over something like that. We started with a music cruise, and then we had a biologist cruise, and then we had a chamber music cruise on the adventure.
Chamber
music. Here are the girls at the Knitting Society.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great. Look at them all. Yeah, a lot of those ladies are going to sail with you guys this year, Justin and Jocelyn.
Got that right. We're excited to have them.
Yeah, that's great.
They sure are.
And there's the reading,
And there's one of them right now.
reading room.
Thanks, Maggie.
I can't see the name of that book. Is that an old Reader's Digest?
Yeah, no idea. No idea. Okay,
Wow.
so the person who just commented, Beth Miller is one of the people that leads the rug hooking trip, and this will be their third year on board. So
That on this picture?
no, it's the one before. Well, Beth Miller just made a comment down below and just said that they were looking forward to coming sailing.
Oh.
That next photo.
This is a buried hair day.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's both of our girls.
Woke up this morning and I couldn't do a thing with my hair.
Yeah, messing around. And that happens to be the new captain also, I think, sticking his head out.
The photo bomb.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just heard my name get called. I was just curious as to what was going on.
Yeah, we can tell by your look.
Yeah, famous for the photo bomb.
Well, I think I placed a bet with one of our crew when that was happening, that anytime on any schooner, once you take the pudding off of the yawl boat to do a little maintenance on it, it's only a matter of time before somebody puts it on their head.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fit beautifully.
So, yeah, she's got the Tina Turner do going there.
Yep.
Well,
Oh,
this is what it's all about.
Yep. Sitting on, so what is that? Do you think that's Hell's Half Acre right there?
I think so, yeah.
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 Nice spot.
In the wintertime. Well, it's all covered up in the winter. Time to get something else done during the winter, isn't it? So you build a yawl boat?
Yeah,
Oh.
that was a fun project. That was a 5.5-month project, and our buddy there, Tom Bornable, helped us do that project. He had already committed to helping rebuild the restaurant down there at the Black Pearl, and I asked him prior to that, I said, you know, you're gonna help me build this yawl boat, right? And he says, oh yeah. And then he came back and said, I'm working on the Black Pearl right now. And I said, you said you were gonna help me build this yawl boat. And he said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 days a week and then you can do the rest. So he would come in and he'd help me get things started and lined up and kind of show me what I should be doing, and work for 2 days, and then he'd take off and then come back the next Monday and say, how'd you do on this? And, you know, we'd kind of go over things, and he'd say, yep, you could do this way next time, and this looks good here. And that's how the whole thing went. It just was a 5.5-month project, but it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot doing that. It was fun.
Yeah, he's a grand guy.
Yeah, he was.
He helped
Fantastic.
build our house. He called it the museum.
Yeah, he helped us build our house too, actually, the one we're sitting in right now. And as a matter of
Right.
fact, I'm working for his, Linda Borneval, I am now working for her in her canvas shop.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were on our way back from Florida and we met Linda
She said,
in South Carolina or something like that.
yeah, what are
Just
you
happened
guys
to be in the
doing?
same-
What are you guys doing? Trucking your boats all the way back, driving a big rig all the way back from South Carolina, Florida, wherever you were coming back from.
Yeah. We had 9 boats on a trailer behind us
That's crazy.
for the sailing school.
Yeah. Good
Yep.
for you.
So there she is, almost ready for paint, huh?
Yeah, next
Almost
photo.
ready for paint.
And that
Oh, there you go. Yep. Yep. Got all our seams puttied, and
yeah.
yeah. Of course, we didn't have any real design that we were going by. We just kind of built it as we went along.
Uh-huh.
But we took the basic idea from Stephen Tabor's yawl boat, and then also from Isaac Evans' yawl boat, and then kind of morphed the two together and made some changes. And
Yeah.
and we were always really happy with how it turned out.
Mm-hmm. What power did you have in it?
We put a Yanmar 4-horse, the 75 horse,
Oh, yeah.
4-cylinder 75 horse in her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good engine. Yeah. And that's this boat. That's the boat you have now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we still use the same beautiful boat.
There she is.
Works
Pushing.
super well. And there's actually you can't really see me in that picture. Unfortunately, I'm standing right behind the boom crutch, kind of hiding.
Oh,
But
I see your
there's
nose.
Jocelyn in the yawl boat in our first trip off the dock over to haul out.
Yep. I guess that was this recent haul out.
Yeah, that was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Came in, perfect landing, right up until the ferry wake got us, and decided to jostle us around a bit. But no, it went super smooth and super fun. We had John on board, and it all went pretty great. There he is. Just had to just couldn't stay away.
One last time.
Well, let's go back a few years now, and there's some pictures that you're sending to me. That what all the markings down on the side of the hull here. What were all those markings? Were they plank you were going to take out, or?
We numbered the plank prior to the removing of everything up forward there. I think I used that opportunity to make a butt plan for the schooner because it hadn't had one up at that point. So just chalking on each and every plank and making decisions of how much to remove, because we ended up replacing the entire stem, which because of her spoon bow curves back quite a lot. And so that was that was down at Booth Bay Harbor Shipyard.
What year was that?
I think that was 2006 and I think it was
7 and 8.
Was it 7?
7 and then 8.
No, it was, I think 2007, you know.
That was quite an extensive rebuild.
Well, it was just the bow, but we also took out we removed the windlass and the Samson post, and then Eddie Riggin, who's the descendant of Ed Riggin, whom the boat was named after, he drove up from Jersey and unloaded a bunch of white oak for us to use for framing, and he set aside a couple pieces, that one of which we used for replacing the Samson post.
Okay.
So on board the vessel right now, there's a little plaque on the back side of the Samson post commemorating that gift from Eddie.
And well, quite a few plank.
And then the rest of this, of course, is ongoing. As you know, it's kind of been over the years where we've tackled different projects over the winter and over the spring, and just gotten in there and replaced things as we went along.
That's the way it goes. Do one section and then another. There's,
Yep. Yeah, there's the new stem. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, the picture in the upper left, you can see the stem. We peeled the cover back
Right.
in order to lower the piece of stem down right through the cover and jam her up into place.
Took me a minute to figure out what was going on there, but that's pretty neat.
That was a bit of work.
Take it down. I should say. A lot of new deck, huh?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much replaced all of the decking since Dave and Sue owned the boat. There's a few places where the planks were still in pretty darn good shape, so we left those in. But I'd say about 95% of the decking's been replaced.
Wow. Yeah, passengers don't think much about all the work you have to do on these vessels in the wintertime. Like, God, to keep them floating, keep them going. There's an enormous amount of patience and grit. So
That's
there
what
you're
I
back
said.
sailing again. I love this picture.
Where's that, you think? Oh. Look at Ella's face.
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious.
Isn't that
Oh,
great?
that's funny. That's a good one. I love it. What
Yeah.
a ham. That's our youngest daughter.
Your youngest-
And yeah, Elizabeth Gendro is saying that previous photo was taken off of Ross Island. And then in these two photos, of course, there's the captain messing around with lobster, and Ella, our youngest, being a silly girl.
Take her to see an orthodontist.
She's got all her teeth now.
And that's John's trained lobster there. That's the one that
That's right.
Well, I didn't have a parrot, so I figured I'd grab the next best thing.
well, it's probably better off. A parrot does things down on the back of your shirt that are not desirable.
Well, sometimes lobsters do too.
Lobsters do. I don't know about that. Well, there she is boiling along.
Nice picture.
When was that picture taken?
That was a
That's
Frank Chalemi picture. We used to do the very last part of our season. We would do a fall photography trip. And
Yeah, good breeze there.
so that would have been, I don't know, maybe
Mid,
2001,
yeah,
sometime around there.
maybe a little.
Maybe later?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, 2003.
This looks like a little negotiation here, doesn't it?
Do you want to explain yourself?
I think that was your birthday one year, Cap, and I was just so envious. I just wanted to be you.
I thought this was the ending. This was the negotiation.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
This was training.
yeah.
This was boot camp.
Be careful what you wish for.
Well, you finally made peace, huh?
I think on that day I actually went down to talk to Annie before you got up, and she did a double take.
Yeah. Like, wait, that's not one, you were up too early to be here. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I believe, yeah, as you could see in the picture, it was foggy that day, and to mimic the facial hair, I splashed some flour in my beard, and because of the moisture in the air, by the time Cap got up, it was almost ready to be kneaded.
Well, I see you shaved part of it down, trimmed it down here in this picture.
Yeah.
Everybody came out friends in the end anyway, huh?
That's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Lifelong friends.
Well, I thought this was neat. 2021, here you go.
Yep.
It's a
There's
big-
Jocelyn. I think that's that picture on the right. That's from the first year that we dated. I think you were
20, that would be 2016. That season I had been a deckhand on the Victory Chimes. So we had bumped into each other plenty of times on the dock on turnarounds. And but our season ended a fair bit. The Chimes' season ended before October, and Justin, so by the time we had finished downrig, Justin still had another sail or two. So
kept bugging her to go sailing.
they invited me out on their last trip with them.
Great.
Yeah, we were carving a pumpkin that would later fit soundly on Justin's head.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find any pictures of that. Maybe it's fortunately.
Yeah, yeah, right. You're such a handsome fellow, you don't want to cover it up.
Did you see the Zoom on the Victory
Just
Chimes?
keeping in the,
What's that?
Did you see the Zoom on the Victory Chimes, the program we did on the Victory Chimes?
We did with Sam, yeah.
Did you see it? Yeah. I just
Yeah.
wondered. It's on YouTube, of course, if you want to go back and see it.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, new stewards, here we go. Well, they asked me the other day, what do you think I ought to do? I'd like to buy a schooner and go sailing. I said, I think you better buy a farm.
I think that's the one thing I always said I didn't want to do, was be a farmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like the water too much.
There's a
I have to
Victory
jump in
Chimes
for a
in the
second. My
Augusta.
daughter Jocelyn was on board taking care of Chloe when she was little. And guess what? She's become a farmer. But she
Oh
considers
my God, it can go either way. It can go either way,
well,
John.
she calls herself a farming sailor or a sailing farmer. It's
Right.
one or the other, but the combination.
Doing both.
She's professionally a farmer and loves sailing.
Well, there you go. This is the kind of fun they have on the old J&E Riggin.
Actually, Jonathan, I think you and your wife might have been on one of my first cruises on the Riggin way back in the day.
Yes,
Or
I
way
called
back in the
you-
day for me.
I called you a scurvy wharf rat, as I recall.
It's a name that I will hold near and dear to my heart.
I hope you don't hold it against me.
Never, never.
Well, there's an abandoned ship right there. And this is what you got to do to get underway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we call that the gym.
Is that the plaque that you mentioned before on the,
Yes, that's it, right there. Yep.
there on the Samson Post? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, long may she sail past the old lighthouse in Rockland.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think this might be an Eddie Glazer photo.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think Eddie took that one.
I thought Elizabeth took them.
I can't vouch for
Well, Elizabeth will tell us if she did. E, if you took that one, let us know. Yeah, you. Sorry, I gave credit to someone else. Bad me.
Oh, well. So that's the entertaining part of it right there. Everybody has a good time and lots of music. That's it. In Maine, out at an anchor in some little deserted island. My God, it's hard to beat. And that concludes the broadcast, concludes the J&E Riggin's broadcast. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Be sure and come visit the Sail Power Steam Museum. We've got so many great things, so much wonderful memorabilia about the old schooners, and especially the history of Rockland, amazing history of Rockland and all the vessels that sailed in and out of there during the 19th century. These are the Zoom programs we've done, and we've just concluded the J&E Riggin, and we have one more coming up May 4th, and that's the original Maddie. You see how old I am, the Grace Bailey and the Mercantile, and all of the old Swift vessels. Captain Swift had 13 different vessels, and he had a history as long as your arm. So we're looking forward to doing that one on May 4th. So be sure and tune in on that if you will. Great stories. We're going to have different captains. I hope we'll get Mike to come on, tell us a little bit about sailing the Maddie. And I'm still searching for Ted Schmidt. He must be around somewhere. But Captain Ray will be with us, of course, and we'll be reviewing all the Swift schooners. Summer's coming. If you want another great tale, get my book, donate to the Skiff program, put $100 down, and we'll get 2 kids out on the bay and you get a free signed book. Oh my God, my memoirs, 40 years of voyaging. Some of it's even true.
That's great.
Join the skiff. Pardon me? Open up one? Oh, well, yeah, we're coming up on questions. My wife reminded me. Well, I wanted to get through my memoirs first, but if anybody has any questions, now the time, jump in and unmute and have a little tete-a-tete.
I've got a quick question, Jim. They mentioned that the hull was white oak. I'm wondering what the deck was made out of.
Well,
The deck is white pine.
Thank you.
Be a pine deck, yeah. Yeah, and any others? Any other questions? Speak right up.
Got lots of people in the chat room talking about that their hookers coming this summer for a cruise, and you got knitters coming and all sorts of people. Looks like you've got good crowds.
I got a big locust tree for you, John.
Another one.
It
Yeah.
fell down in the windstorm.
Well, maybe you will find time to go down and cut it up.
Okay, well, I guess that's enough cutting up. We thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining in on us, and hope you've enjoyed it. The program will be on YouTube. We'll be putting it on YouTube. It's been taped, and in a couple of days, it'll be posted. So if you ever want to refer back to it or send it out to any of your friends, we'll check on our website and our scheduling page, and the links will be right there for the YouTube presentations.
There's one quick question here asking if Jeff Kaufman is coming back for shanties this summer.
Absolutely.
Yes, he is.
Absolutely.
I thought that might be an important question.
It wouldn't be a complete season aboard the Riggin without Jeff.
And who is the cook?
Our chef this year is Mark Godfrey, who may have been recognized as Chives from past seasons, but he spent several years in the galley with Annie, and he's coming back to us from the West Coast.
After working in several other farm-to-table establishments.
Yeah.
We're super excited to have him with us, and he's super excited to be with us.
Well, we wish you a marvelous season.
Well, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And thanks for hosting this and bringing all of us together for this. It's been really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you very much. It was really nice to hear and see everyone.